This new Mariners right fielder will crush lefties. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly episode of the Seattle Baseline podcast. My name is Julian Smith, and I'm with Alex Hong. Alex, as you can see, I am now different place. I am now in Japan and enjoying. I ate some crazy amount of bowls of sushi, and then at the
Oh,
sushi restaurant, I ate ramen. It's like a whole thing where the fish soup works really well with the ramen, so it was really good. Like it's a famous thing. I didn't just go to a sushi restaurant and randomly eat ramen. Like it was super awesome. But how are you doing?
yeah. You see sometimes, they actually, a lot of restaurants, when they have kids menus, they put like American food because, like, kids, I guess, just like American food. They like put like burgers. Like, I know, like, let's say you went to like Din Tai Fung, they actually all have like regular stuff. But so it'd be like if you went to Din Tai Fung and the kids menu, you order like a burger. It'd be like everyone's looking at you like, what the heck are you doing? But yeah, I feel like also you're in a new location every single week. So I don't
Yeah.
know. My location changes sometimes too, but right now I'm in my home. So yeah, that's this background right here. But yeah, um, this will actually be the last episode of the year, right? So this has
Yeah.
been quite the year for the Seattle Mariners, right? A lot has happened. And hopefully, well, we'll see if this was the last signing of the year, but Rob Refsnyder, right, did sign with the Mariners for a former Boston Red Sox. So, outfielder, and he will theoretically be platooning at right field. So, Julian, let's get more into Rob Refsnyder and what value he brings to the Mariners.
Yeah. So Rob Refsnyder is very, very clearly a righty platoon against lefties. So like the opposite of Dom Canzone. This is the hole that the Mariners needed to fill when they brought in a lefty against Dominic Canzone. You couldn't substitute Luke Raley, and you had to go to Victor Robles, who was gone for a lot of the year, and a lot of stuff gets messed up right there. So to have Rob Refsnyder means if you have Dominic Canzone in there, well, you're not getting crushed by the lefty pitcher. Now you sub in Rob Refsnyder, and then if they sub in a righty pitcher, okay, let's put in Luke Raley. Everything works out just fine. And same thing goes for if Rob Refsnyder's starting that day. Now you have Dominic Canzone in your bench who can come in and he'll crush the righty pitcher. So that's the type of guy that we got. We didn't have that last year, and I'm super excited to see Rob Refsnyder because I think he fills a massive hole that the Mariners had in that lineup. If the relief pitcher was a lefty, the Mariners were completely cooked, and they needed to figure out a way. So I think this one's a really interesting signing, and for $6.25 million, I think the Mariners got a bargain.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's look at it, right? Last year, right? Well, we didn't have Victor Robles, right? And we only had like Dominic Canzone, essentially. Luke Raley at times wasn't available. We would be putting in Dylan Moore at right field, right? And Dylan Moore was playing so bad that you can hardly say it was a platoon because it was just awful, right? So, but Rob Refsnyder is a really, really good hitter against lefties. So I'm going to read you out some stats. So in 2025, his OPS was 959 against lefties and 616 against righties. So obviously against righties, he's below average, but against lefties, he's hitting like what Cal Raleigh did, not with the home runs, but with the OPS, right? Very, very similar, right? And then that's not just a 1 year thing. In 2024, he did something similar. He had 941 OPS against lefties and a 733 OPS against righties. So he actually hit like above or around average against righties, but he dominated lefties with the OPS, right? And there's a lot of things you can look at. So he doesn't hit that many home runs, but he hits a good amount of doubles, I'd say, is why his slugging is pretty high. And he gets on base a lot, right? So his OPS is around 400 or so against lefties, which means like 2/5 of the time when he's on to hit, he's gonna get on base. So that's pretty good. So this is a very, very nice player you can platoon with, right? You can either do it as like a substitution mid-game, Or you can have him just start against the lefties and then maybe you can take him out. Because this is a player that you probably should take out at most instances, unless it's like a blowout or something against a righty.
Yeah, the and to your point, against righties, he is well below average, at least for 2025, and he's not able to. I think what happened was that he's less exposed to righties now, and he's so focused on lefties that something like some switch must have happened with the righty movement, and so I think with Rob Refsnyder, you're looking for a guy who's a great batter against lefties and on defense is serviceable enough. This is his primary position. He'll be able to do a decent enough job. Like he's not your premium defender. I think Victor Robles is one of those premium defenders, but he's also not Jose Altuve for the Houston Astros, where this is clearly not his position, and he's trying his best to see what he can do, like see what he can make of the position that he's given. Rob Refsnyder plays right field, and so even if he's below average, well, there's not like he's not below that certain line where you consider him unplayable at the position. So he's not like the DH type. He can be your right fielder.
Yeah, I mean, one other thing with let's just look at the right field position in general right now, right? It's a little oversaturated, but we have a lot of players that have options now. So we have Refsnyder, who we talked about. We have Canzone, we have Rayleigh, and we have Robles, right? So looking at all those options, let's just say all of them are going to be on the roster, okay? We could run out like a situation where we have a ton of options, right? We can start Canzone. Let's say there's a righty pitching and we put Canzone. Let's say, or in this instance of where we want to force a substitution, right? We can force, like, let's say they have a good reliever in and we put in Refsnyder or like a good lefty reliever in. We put in Refsnyder and they feel like, oh, we gotta switch him out, right? And then we could force like the pitching switches. So that's like a power we have now, which we didn't have last year, right? If we're putting out like Luke Rayleigh last year, or not Luke Rayleigh, let's say like we're putting out Robles, right? Last year, he wasn't that much of a threat. So this is not a player that they're gonna be, oh yeah, we don't need to like switch him out, right? So this brings us, it's like a nice counter strike because when we had Canzone, if we put in Canzone, they immediately swapped out, right, for a righty. So we
Mm-hmm.
have that power to combat. And also, right, he's not too good of a defender, so we still have Robles for the defense part. So we have a lot of options at right field. So this is more of a traditional platoon situation, unlike what we did last year, where we're trying to platoon like Luke Rayleigh and Dom Canzone, who both kind of only hit against lefty or only hit against righties, which is kind of an issue. We now kind of fix that issue.
And this is the point where like this is not the situation where it's like you have Mitch Garver and then you have Dominic Canzone as your DH. This is somebody that is clearly he is a major league proven very good batter against lefties. Like he is effective. He will get on base at almost 400 against lefties. That's value. And sure, the Red Sox field, Fenway Park, is different from T-Mobile Park, and T-Mobile Park is harder to hit in. I still think that on base percentage will get him to where we need him to be. That's the bottom line. Even if he doesn't steal bases, he will get on first base, and that's something that keeps the line moving. And to your point, that's the threat. Even if he doesn't OPS 900 the way that he did last year and the year before, he is still the type of player that can go out there and create value out of maybe a game that's like a nothing game. You have nothing going for you, and Rob Refsnyder comes up and he gets on base. That can shift the tide for the Mariners in a big way, and I think that's the type of value that Rob Refsnyder is able to bring. And so, even though this is a platoon, I think this type of platoon is needed for a team like the Mariners. I think that having someone like Josh Naylor, who we signed at the start of the offseason, gives you that ability to go and create a platoon at another position instead of having a platoon at first base. And so that's a lot of the moves that we've made so far make a lot of sense. And I think having a stable right field, assuming Rob Refsnyder plays the way that he has been against lefties, and Dominic Canzone or Luke Raley steps up against righties, I think you have a very stable right field, and that makes it so that for, let's say, the infield, you don't need to add that extra proven great batter like an Alex Bregman or like players like that. You don't need to add that. You don't have the urge to need to add that as soon as possible because you have a right field position that's that stable and you have a lineup that consists of six positions that can go out and mash the other team's pitcher every day. I think that the value that you get from having a platoon bat like Rob Refsnyder, that's huge. That I'm excited for the Mariners with this one.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. You talked about his success in Fenway Park. So last year, his home away splits are his OPS was 861 away, no, at home, and then it was 809 away. So right, so it wasn't too much like of a big difference last year. And I know this is not like a huge sample size, so it's a little tough to say. But in 2024, he had a 776 OPS at home, but then he had an 875 away. So I personally think he's not going to struggle too much in um T-Mobile Park. And honestly, with him, right, we don't need him to be some like super duper uber star, right? We're only paying him $6.25 million, right? Even if he's a little worse, because Fenway Park is a very hitter-friendly park, so I assume some regression. Maybe he doesn't go 960 OPS like he did last year, but if he still plays at a well above average level, that's gonna be good enough for us at a platoon, right? Because for a platoon, you can run a platoon. Now, you can't run one in every single position because you don't have enough roster spots, but it's okay to have platoons at certain positions. You don't need like an Aaron Judge at every single position, or else that probably would not, that's probably not a feasible Major League Baseball team without spending like billions of dollars. So I'm perfectly content with the way it is right now, but I will have a few questions for you, Julian. How
Yeah.
would you do you think we possibly have too many outfielders? Like, how is our situation going to be, even including our other two outfield positions, right? With like Randy and Julio.
Yeah, I think Randy and Julio Rodriguez, obviously he should stay there. And Randy Rosarena, these Randy and Julio should stay because those are the two players in our outfield positions that have been successful. And Randy Rosarena, I cannot think of the last left fielder that was as successful and as upbringing for this team as Randy Rosarena. And then Julio Rodriguez, obviously our superstar. Every year, once you get to the second half of the year, Julio Rodriguez is the guy that's pulling all the strings with the Mariners. He continues to be that. And so shifting over to right field, I think with Dominic Canzone and Luke Raley, I think you don't really know what you're getting out of these guys yet. With Luke Raley, obviously the injuries happened last year. The year before, he was a pretty decent player. Like he was a I wouldn't say he was a superstar, but he was a pretty serviceable player. And with with Dominic Canzone, last year was great. He averaged around 300. His his ability to hit the baseball far, I thought was a really interesting one. Paired with his he was able to hit the fastball, but now he's able to hit the breaking pitches as well. And so Dominic Canzone, I think, is on an upward trend, but clearly we still don't know. I think that these guys are still, even though they're major leaguers, they're still in that like prospect major league tier where you want to figure out what's going on with them. You want to know what they're going to be next year. With Rob Refsnyder, I think that you have a guy that's been proven. Like, sure, he can pull Jorge Polanco from last year and completely suck for the next year, but still, this is a guy that you trust because you know that this guy's going to be pretty good. I don't think cutting any of these guys is a good option. I think that Victor Robles clearly has his spot on the team as a premium defender and the substitute as a pinch runner, paired with in 2024, he had a really good on base percentage because he was able to get contact a lot with the fastball. He was able to improve on that. And so you never know what you're getting out of these guys. And I think that having all four of these outfielders, if you realize clearly this guy's not working, this guy, like, the Mariners have high aspirations. They want to get to the World Series and they want to win the World Series. If you realize this is a guy that's clearly not the fit for the Mariners this year, I think that DFA is an option. But at the same time, I'd love to see them make the major league roster at least on the bench for all of these outfielders to start the year. That I think is that's something that I would want to see.
Yeah, and honestly, with the outfielders we have right now, right, we need backups for Julio Rodriguez too, right? Um, because like let's say, Julio's gonna play every day, but what if he gets hurt or what if he needs a rest day, right? We can't just not have someone there. So right now we have Randy, we have Julio, we have Canzone, Robles, Rayleigh, and then so usually carry at least five or so outfielders traditionally, and then the fifth one is Refsnyder, who we just signed, right? So if you think about all of that in its case, okay, we can have one of the guys be like a utility or no, maybe not utility, but like Robles can play all positions. So we have a good amount of versatility within the outfield that I think keeping all six is okay now. It depends on what we do in the infield, right? Maybe we might not have the roster space. Maybe we have to cut Rayleigh or someone like that, but that could be something we determine later on. And especially after spring training where we see how well all these players are doing, right? And Rayleigh, he looks like he's lost. He doesn't know what's happening. Then maybe we can do something about that. But at this point, I would definitely keep them all and just see how it goes.
Yeah, because like you've seen good Luke Rayleigh, you've seen good Dominic Canzone, and we've seen good Victor Robles. We've seen all of these guys be great. We haven't seen consistent production from any of these guys, and so that we need to see that. We need to make sure that this is the right guy to move forward with, and I think that that's going to be the turning point for the Mariners is to to find out which of these guys are consistent and how can we build a like foundationally sound team that's going to give you the ability to go out there consistently every single day and be able to mash the lefties, mash the righties. That's what we need. And Rob Refsnyder is a great this is the guy that I think he was an under the radar guy. He is clearly the fit for the Mariners. So that's it for me. I think Rob Refsnyder is a great I'm so glad that the Mariners went and got this guy.
Yeah, one more thing I'm gonna add before we end here is that Rayleigh and Canzone, and they're not very expensive. They're like less, they're like a million or I don't exactly know their values, but it's very, very small. So their contract wise, like it's not a problem for them. Robles, I think, is around $5 million, but he's such a good defender. I think he out of all of them, or I'd say Canzone is pretty safe because how well he played last year. Julio and Randy are obviously safe. Refsnyder, obviously, we just signed him. And Robles, I think, should be the safer one because he is a really good defender, so he can play all three positions. So if there is an odd man out, I would say it's Rayleigh, but we can see how he plays because he was good for us in 2024. Now he wasn't good in 2025, but people have on and off years. He was injured, so we can, maybe there's an explanation for that. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied with how the outfield is right now. I don't think we need to do anything additional per se for the outfield. In this case, I think at this point we should focus on the infield and some other stuff rather than the outfield. I think the outfield is pretty good now with the ref center standing. But yeah, that's all after that.
Yep. And we'll keep on talking about the infield. We'll be talking about the bullpen. Let us know what you guys want to see from the Mariners, and what do you guys want us to talk about? Because we will totally answer a bunch of your questions. So that'd be super awesome. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our beautiful faces on YouTube. Check out our Instagram. And as always, go Mariners.
Go Mariners.